Lisa walked into the bright office building on a Monday morning, carrying her coffee and feeling nervous butterflies in her stomach. Today was her first day as the new marketing director at TechFlow Solutions. She had worked hard to get this position, and after her difficult divorce 6 months ago, she really needed this fresh start. The elevator ride to the 5th floor felt longer than usual. Lisa checked her reflection in the mirrored walls one more time, smoothing down her navy blue blazer. She wanted to make a good first impression on her new team. When the elevator doors opened, she was greeted by Rebecca, the friendly HR manager who had interviewed her. Rebecca gave her a warm smile and led her through the open office space, introducing her to various team members along the way. "And this is our development team," Rebecca said, stopping at a cluster of desks near the large windows. "They'll be working closely with you on the upcoming product launches." Lisa noticed a tall man with dark hair looking up from his computer screen. He had kind brown eyes and wore a simple gray sweater. When Rebecca introduced him as David, the senior software developer, he stood up and offered a genuine smile. "Welcome to the team, Lisa," David said, shaking her hand. "I've heard great things about your work from your previous company. We're excited to have fresh ideas for our marketing campaigns." There was something warm and approachable about David that immediately put Lisa at ease. Unlike some developers she had worked with before, he seemed genuinely interested in collaboration rather than just focusing on the technical side of things. Over the next few weeks, Lisa found herself working closely with David on several projects. Their first big assignment was launching a new software product that the development team had been working on for months. Lisa needed to understand the technical features to create effective marketing materials, and David was always patient in explaining complicated concepts in simple terms. During their project meetings, Lisa discovered that David had a great sense of humor. He could make even the most boring technical discussions interesting with his funny observations and stories from his years in software development. Lisa found herself looking forward to their meetings more than she expected. One evening, both of them were working late in the office. Most of their colleagues had already gone home, and the building was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and air conditioning. Lisa was struggling with understanding a particularly complex feature of the software when David appeared at her desk with 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," he said, setting 1 cup near her keyboard. "You've been staring at that screen for the past hour." "Thanks," Lisa replied gratefully. "I'm trying to figure out how to explain this new security feature in a way that regular people will understand. It's more complicated than I thought." David pulled up a chair next to her desk. "Mind if I help? Sometimes it's easier to explain these things in person rather than through emails." For the next hour, David patiently walked Lisa through the software features using simple examples and drawing diagrams on a whiteboard. Lisa was impressed by his ability to break down complex ideas into easy-to-understand concepts. She also noticed how focused and passionate he was about his work. "You're really good at teaching," Lisa said as they finished up. "Have you ever thought about training new employees?" David smiled. "Actually, I do enjoy helping people learn new things. It's one of the reasons I like working with the marketing team. You all ask questions that make me think about our products in different ways." As they packed up their things to leave, Lisa realized she had learned more about the software in one evening than she had in the previous 2 weeks of reading technical documents. She also realized that she genuinely enjoyed David's company. Their coffee break meetings became a regular thing. Every afternoon around 3 o'clock, David would stop by Lisa's desk with 2 cups of coffee, and they would spend 15 minutes discussing their projects or just talking about their day. Lisa found these breaks to be the highlight of her workday. During one of these coffee conversations, Lisa mentioned that she was still adjusting to living alone after her divorce. She had been married for 7 years to someone who had become distant and uninterested in their relationship. The divorce had been painful, but she knew it was the right decision. "I'm sorry you went through that," David said sincerely. "Divorce is never easy, even when it's for the best." Lisa was touched by his genuine concern. "Thanks. It's been hard, but I'm starting to feel like myself again. This new job has been a great distraction." David nodded thoughtfully. "I understand more than you might think. My wife Elena and I have been having some difficulties lately. We've been together for 10 years, and we have 2 kids together, but lately it feels like we're just going through the motions. We barely talk anymore except about practical things like schedules and bills. Lisa was surprised by David's honesty. She had assumed he had a happy marriage based on the photos of his family on his desk. I'm sorry to hear that. Have you tried talking to Elena about how you feel? We've tried counseling a couple of times, but she doesn't seem interested in working on our relationship. She says I'm too focused on work and that I don't understand what she needs. Maybe she's right, but I don't know how to fix it anymore. This conversation marked a turning point in their friendship. They began sharing more personal details about their lives, their dreams, and their disappointments. Lisa learned that David had wanted to be a teacher before getting into software development, and that he worried about not being a good enough father to his children. David learned that Lisa had always wanted to start her own marketing consultancy, and that she loved painting in her free time, but hadn't picked up a brush in years. One Friday evening, after a particularly successful product launch that they had worked on together, Lisa and David decided to celebrate with dinner at a small restaurant near their office. The conversation flowed easily as they talked about their work, their goals, and their favorite movies. As the evening progressed, Lisa found herself really looking at David for the first time. She noticed the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his children, and how he listened carefully to everything she said. She realized that somewhere, along the way, her feelings for him had grown beyond friendship. "David," she said during a pause in their conversation, "I need to tell you something, and I hope it doesn't make things awkward between us." David looked at her with concern. "What is it?" Lisa took a deep breath. "I think you're an amazing person, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you these past few months, but I think my feelings for you have grown into something more than friendship. I find myself looking forward to seeing you every day, and I think about our conversations long after they're over." David's expression became serious. He was quiet for a long moment, and Lisa worried that she had made a terrible mistake in being so honest. Finally, David spoke. "Lisa, I care about you a lot, more than I probably should. You've brought joy back into my days in a way that I hadn't felt in years. When I'm with you, I feel like the best version of myself." Lisa felt her heart skip at his words, but she could see the conflict in his eyes. "But," David continued, "I'm married and I have 2 children who depend on me. No matter how complicated things are with Elena, I can't cross that line. I care about you too much to let this go somewhere that could hurt both of us and destroy the trust we've built." Lisa nodded, feeling disappointed but also respecting David's integrity. "I understand I shouldn't have said anything." "No, I'm glad you did. It means a lot to know that someone as wonderful as you could have feelings for me. But I think we need to be careful about our friendship. We both need to promise that we'll keep things professional from now on." David extended his hand across the table. "Can we shake on it? A promise to keep our relationship strictly professional?" Lisa looked at his hand for a moment, knowing that shaking it would mean accepting that they could never be more than colleagues. But she also knew he was right. She reached out and shook his hand firmly. "I promise," she said. "Professional only." As they shook hands, both of them felt the electric connection between them, making them both realize that keeping this promise would be much harder than either of them imagined. The Monday morning after their promise felt different. Lisa arrived at the office early, hoping to avoid the awkwardness she was sure would come with seeing David again. She buried herself in work, responding to emails and reviewing marketing campaigns, but her mind kept wandering back to their dinner conversation. Around 10 o'clock, her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from David. "Good morning. Hope you have a great day. The client loved the presentation we worked on." Lisa stared at the message for a full minute before responding. "Thanks for letting me know. That's wonderful news." It was a simple exchange, nothing more than colleagues sharing work updates. But Lisa found herself smiling as she typed her response. David was trying to keep things normal between them, and she appreciated his effort. Over the next few weeks, their text conversations became more frequent. What started as work-related messages slowly evolved into discussions about books, movies, and random thoughts throughout the day. David would send her funny memes during boring meetings, and Lisa would share interesting articles she found online. "Did you see the article about the new marketing trends?" Lisa texted one afternoon. "The one about social media influencers?" "Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Made me think about our upcoming campaign," David replied. "Exactly. We should discuss it over coffee sometime." "Definitely. How about tomorrow at 3? These text exchanges became the highlight of Lisa's day. She found herself checking her phone constantly, hoping for a message from David. She told herself it was just friendly conversation, but deep down she knew she was looking forward to his messages more than anything else in her day. David was experiencing the same thing on his end. He would sit in meetings thinking about what to text Lisa next, or he would save interesting stories throughout the day to share with her. When he got home in the evenings, he would find himself more interested in continuing their text conversation than talking to Elena about her day. Elena noticed the change in David's behavior. "You're always on your phone lately," she commented, one evening as they sat watching television. "Is everything okay at work?" "Just some project updates," David replied, quickly putting his phone away. But the guilt he felt was immediate and uncomfortable. He wasn't technically lying, but he wasn't being completely honest either. At the office, Lisa started staying late whenever she knew David would be working late too. She would find excuses to walk past his desk or ask questions about projects that could have been answered over email. David did the same thing, timing his coffee breaks to coincide with hers and volunteering to help with tasks that didn't really require his expertise. Their colleagues began to notice their frequent interactions. During team meetings, they would unconsciously sit near each other and often exchange glances when someone made a joke or presented an idea. Rebecca from HR even mentioned to Lisa one day that it was nice to see how well she was working with the development team. "David speaks very highly of your collaboration," Rebecca said with a knowing smile. "It's refreshing to see marketing and development working so smoothly together." Lisa felt her cheeks warm at the comment. Were their feelings that obvious to everyone else? The situation became more complicated when their company announced a weekend retreat for all employees. It was meant to be a team-building event at a resort 2 hours outside the city. Lisa's first thought was about spending an entire weekend around David, and she wasn't sure if she was excited or terrified about the prospect. The retreat included various activities like trust exercises, group discussions about company goals, and social events in the evenings. Lisa tried to maintain professional distance from David, but it proved nearly impossible when they were assigned to the same team for most activities. During a problem-solving exercise, they worked together so naturally that other employees commented on their teamwork. "You two should be partners for all our projects," joked Tom from the sales team. "You read each other's minds." That evening, there was a company barbecue by the lake. Lisa wore a simple blue dress and tried to mingle with different groups of colleagues, but she kept finding herself drawn back to conversations that included David. He looked relaxed in his casual khaki pants and white button-down shirt, and Lisa had to remind herself several times to focus on what other people were saying instead of just watching him. After dinner, several employees went for a walk along the lake shore. The sunset painted the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink, and the peaceful setting made everyone feel more relaxed than usual. Lisa found herself walking beside David, a little behind the main group. "This is really beautiful," Lisa said, looking out over the water. "It is," David agreed. But when Lisa glanced at him, he was looking at her instead of the sunset. They slowed their pace even more, creating distance between themselves and their colleagues. The conversation turned personal as they talked about their dreams and what they hoped to accomplish in their careers. "I used to come to places like this with my family when I was younger," David shared. "My dad would take us camping every summer. Those are some of my best childhood memories." "That sounds wonderful," Lisa replied. "My family wasn't much for outdoor activities, but I always imagined what it would be like to have those kinds of adventures. Maybe someday you'll get to experience it," David said softly. The way he said it made Lisa wonder if he was imagining sharing those experiences with her. The thought sent a warm feeling through her chest, followed immediately by the reminder of their promise to keep things professional. They walked, Their hands accidentally brushed against each other. Both of them felt the electric connection, but neither pulled away immediately. For a few steps, their fingers almost intertwined before David cleared his throat and moved slightly to the side. "We should probably catch up with the others," he said, his voice a little strained. "You're right," Lisa agreed, but neither of them picked up their pace. They continued walking slowly, talking about everything and nothing. David told her about his children's latest school projects, and Lisa shared stories about her attempts to redecorate her apartment. The conversation was easy and comfortable, like they had known each other for years instead of months. When they finally reached the resort, the other employees were already heading inside. Lisa and David lingered outside for a few more minutes, neither wanting the evening to end. "Thank you for the walk," Lisa said. "I really enjoyed our conversation." "Me, too," David replied. "I always enjoy talking with you, Lisa. You make even ordinary things seem interesting." They stood facing each other in the soft glow of the resort's outdoor lighting. The moment felt charged with possibility, and Lisa could see in David's eyes that he was feeling the same attraction she was. For a brief second, it seemed like David might step closer to her. Lisa's heart raced as she wondered what would happen if he did. But then David took a small step backward, breaking the spell. "Good night, Lisa," he said quietly. "Good night, David." As they walked into the resort and headed to their separate rooms, both of them knew that their promise to keep things professional was becoming harder to keep with each passing day. The line they had drawn between friendship and something more was starting to blur, and neither of them was sure how much longer they could pretend that their feelings weren't growing stronger. The weeks following the company retreat felt like walking on thin ice. Lisa and David returned to their daily routines, but something had shifted between them during that evening walk by the lake. Their text messages became longer and more personal, and their coffee break stretched from 15 minutes to half an hour or more. David's home life was becoming increasingly strained. Elena had started asking more questions about his late nights at the office and why he seemed distracted during family dinners. Their conversations had dwindled to discussions about household responsibilities and the children's schedules. "You used to tell me about your day," Elena said one evening as they cleaned up after dinner. "Now you just sit there checking your phone." "I'm just tired," David replied, putting his phone in his pocket. "Work has been really busy with the new product launches." Elena studied his face for a moment. "Is everything okay with us, David? You seem so distant lately." David felt a stab of guilt. "Everything's fine, I'm just stressed about some projects." But everything wasn't fine, and David knew it. He found himself comparing every interaction with Elena to his conversations with Lisa. Where Elena seemed uninterested in his work and dreams, Lisa hung on every word. Where Elena criticized his long hours, Lisa understood his passion for what he did. Lisa was having her own struggles. She had tried going on a few dates with men she met through friends and dating apps, hoping to distract herself from her feelings for David. But every coffee date and dinner felt flat compared to her conversations with him. "He sounds nice," her friend Jessica said after Lisa described her latest date. "Why don't you want to see him again?" "I don't know," Lisa said, stirring her coffee absently. "He's perfectly fine, but there's just no spark, no real connection." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe you're not giving anyone a fair chance because you're hung up on someone else." Lisa felt her cheeks redden. She hadn't told Jessica about David, but her friend knew her well enough to sense when something was going on. "There's nobody else," Lisa said quickly. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. At work, their attraction was becoming harder to hide. During team meetings, they would catch each other's eyes across the room and share small smiles. When David explained technical concepts to the group, Lisa found herself watching his hands gesture as he spoke, remembering how those same hands had almost held hers during their lake walk. Their colleagues definitely noticed. Tom from sales made another comment about their perfect partnership, and Rebecca from HR mentioned to Lisa that it was obvious she and David worked very well together. "You two have great chemistry," Rebecca said casually while they waited for the elevator. "Professional chemistry, I mean. It's rare to see marketing and development collaborate so smoothly." Lisa wondered if Rebecca really meant just professional chemistry, or if she was hinting at something more obvious. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday afternoon in November. Lisa had been having a particularly stressful week, dealing with a difficult client who kept changing their requirements for an advertising campaign. She stayed late at the office trying to revise the materials for the third time that week. Around 7 o'clock, she decided to call it a day and drive home. The rain was coming down heavily and traffic was moving slowly. Lisa was exhausted and frustrated, and she wasn't paying as much attention to the road as she should have been. At a busy intersection, she didn't notice that the car in front of her had stopped suddenly. By the time she hit the brakes, it was too late. Her car slid on the wet pavement and crashed into the back of a small SUV. Lisa sat in her car for a moment, shaken and trying to process what had happened. The accident wasn't serious. Both cars had been moving slowly, but her front bumper was damaged and her hands were trembling from the adrenaline. The driver of the other car, a middle-aged woman, was very understanding. They exchanged insurance, information, and called the police to file a report. Lisa's car was still drivable, but she felt rattled and unsafe driving in the heavy rain. Without really thinking about it, she pulled out her phone and called David. "Lisa, is everything okay?" David answered on the first ring, immediately sensing from her voice that something was wrong. "I had a little car accident," Lisa said, her voice shaking slightly. "I'm okay, but I'm kind of freaked out and I don't really want to drive right now." "Where are you?" David asked immediately. "I'm coming to get you." "You don't have to do that. I can call a taxi or something." "Lisa, tell me where you are. I'm already grabbing my keys." 20 minutes later, David arrived at the intersection, where Lisa was still waiting with her damaged car. He parked and ran over to her, not caring that he was getting soaked by the rain. "Are you hurt?" he asked, looking her over with concern. "No, I'm fine. Just shaken up," Lisa replied. David looked at her car and then back at her. "Come on, let's get you out of this rain. I'll drive you home, and we can figure out what to do about your car tomorrow." In David's car, Lisa felt her composure finally breaking. The stress of the week, combined with the accident and David's immediate response to help her, made her feel overwhelmed with emotion. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "I probably could have handled it myself, but I just felt so alone standing there in the rain." David reached over and briefly touched her hand. "You don't have to handle everything by yourself, Lisa. That's what friends are for." But the way he looked at her when he said it, and the way her heart raced at his touch, made it clear that they were both feeling much more than friendship. When they arrived at Lisa's apartment complex, David insisted on walking her to her door. "Are you sure you're okay? Do you need anything? I could stay for a while to make sure you're feeling better." Lisa looked into his concerned brown eyes and felt her resolve crumbling. "Would you like to come in for coffee? I think I could use the company." David hesitated for just a moment. He knew he should go home to Elena and the kids, but Lisa looked so vulnerable standing there, and he couldn't bear the thought of leaving her alone when she was upset. "Coffee sounds good," he said. In Lisa's cozy living room, they sat on her sofa drinking coffee and talking about the accident. David helped Lisa call her insurance company and offered to help her find a good repair shop. His kindness and care made Lisa feel protected in a way she hadn't experienced in years. As the evening wore on, their conversation drifted to more personal topics. Lisa told David how alone she had felt since her divorce and how his friendship had meant so much to her during this difficult time. David shared how isolated he felt in his marriage and how talking with Lisa was often the best part of his day. "I know we promised to keep things professional," Lisa said softly, "but I have to be honest with you. When I was sitting in that car today, scared and shaken up, you were the first person I wanted to call. Not my sister, not my friend Jessica. You." David set down his coffee cup and turned to face her fully. "Lisa, you were the first person I wanted to help. When I heard your voice on the phone, nothing else mattered except getting to you and making sure you were okay." They were sitting closer together on the sofa now, and the air between them felt charged with electricity. Lisa could see the conflict in David's eyes, the battle between his moral principles and his growing feelings for her. This is exactly what we promised we wouldn't let happen, David said quietly, but he didn't move away from her. I know, Lisa whispered, but I can't pretend anymore that I don't feel this way about you. Slowly, as if drawn by a force neither of them could resist, they leaned toward each other. When their lips finally met, it was soft and tentative at first, then deeper and more passionate as months of suppressed feelings poured out between them. The kiss lasted only a few seconds, but it changed everything. When they broke apart, both of them were breathing hard and staring at each other with a mixture of desire and shock. We shouldn't have done that, David said, but his voice lacked conviction. But we did, Lisa replied. And I'm not sorry. David ran his hands through his hair, clearly struggling with his emotions. Lisa, I care about you so much, but this is exactly what I was afraid would happen. I'm married. I have children. This could destroy everything. Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes. I know. I know how complicated this is. But David, what we have is real. These feelings are real. We can't keep pretending they don't exist. David stood up and paced to the window, looking out at the rain that was still falling. What are we going to do? We work together every day. I can't just forget that this happened, and I don't think I want to. Lisa joined him at the window. I don't know what we're going to do, but I know that I've never felt this way about anyone before, and I think you feel the same way. David turned to look at her, and Lisa could see the truth in his eyes. He did feel the same way, and that realization both thrilled and terrified both of them. They stood there in silence for several minutes, both knowing that they had crossed a line they could never uncross and both uncertain about what would happen next.